Okay, so quick things for me. I hope a few more members come and join this webinar. We're really looking forward to hearing an update from PopUp Business School, who we've worked with on and off for a few years, a number of our members. So welcome, Alan, really glad that you've come along. And it's good to know that there's a live training session going on behind the door with 40 odd participants. So thanks for joining us today. As ever, I'll do a quick update on what GUAC is up to, and just a reminder that we record each of these webinars and save them onto the GUAC network so that all GUAC members can access those at any time to review it, to use it just like a video fast forward play and go back over points or watch it for the first time. Okay, so brief things that have gone on this month. We had a really interesting, first time for us, live web event between New York and London, with the Deputy Mayor for Skills and Planning in London, Jules Pike. So that was a bit of a coup for GUAC, and a commissioner, a senior commissioner of housing in New York. So the tech thankfully worked, and we had a 2-hour session between a delegation of New Yorkers and Londoners talking about housing and employment and skills and what we're each trying to do in our cities. That was really good. Notes have gone out on that event, and that was also recorded. So we're thinking about sharing clips of that and putting a video together for our members. But it was a real step change for working internationally for GUAC, so that's great. Both Midlands members have met collectively, started looking at funding opportunities, and the North are meeting collectively in early May. So and the Southwest also met. So there's quite a few regional groupings happening now of GUAC members, generally self-driven, but GUAC will support each one and attend and provide information and updates. So I'm pleased that they seem to be gathering pace as well. Our impact research is coming into its final phase. So the University of Salford are with us. They're doing in-depth case studies now with between 6 and 10 GUAC members around the country, and that's really getting down into what's working well, what works less well, and how we measure impact, how we know we're being successful, what is it we're measuring. So that's due to report in autumn. So it's really in its in-depth stage now. And we've finally got agreement and are starting to send letters of invitation out to MPs and peers next week on the 1st of May to join our new all-party parliamentary group on housing and employment. And we're doing that with Place Shapers. That's going to be obviously a Westminster-led forum that will meet about 3 times a year. It's led by MPs and peers, but supported by GUAC and Place Shapers. And it's a forum where we can invite expert speakers, such as PopUp Business or other partners who are interested, to come and explain what they're doing, how they're working with housing, and what issues or barriers or ideas they have that, in a parliamentary sense, they could do something to help us with. So it's got that kind of focus, but that's going to happen this year, so I'm really pleased about that. Last couple of quick things. We've got a meeting in London for West and Central London housing providers. So if any of you are out there looking at this now and it's before the 21st of May, drop me a line. We're partnering with G4S to try and unlock some European project monies and get it better used before it runs out, essentially this year. So that's a kind of partnership and funding meeting. And the last thing, we're just finalising our next webinar, which will be the end of May, and that's going to be with Morgan Hunt, who are a commercial recruitment agency, and a training provider, an adult skills budget training provider called the Learning Curve Group, who are based in the North but operate nationally. And we're looking at a pilot model there, which some members are engaged with, but we would like to consider if more would be interested, basically linking residents to funded employment and skills training programs that are reasonably brief and good quality, with guaranteed interviews with Morgan Hunt and their employability professionals and live jobs. So just joining up that process. So we'll introduce that project and take any queries and questions. But that's next month. So over to this month and over to Alan. Thank you. Romy said she's pretty old school with technology. Love it, but she's here. So thank you. And Alan, I'll shut up now. That was my GUAC update done, and I look forward to hearing from you now.
Awesome. Thank you, Lindsay. Hello, Romy. So my plan, well, I had a plan, was to have a look at why residents don't start businesses, why they might start businesses, how you might help them, how you might scare them off, what works and what doesn't, and then share some of the different bits that we've been working on that have and haven't worked, so that we can kind of learn from the experience we've gone through. Last year, we ran 23 two-week events across the world. And this year, it's looking like it's going to be 39 events. So we're starting to get some experience about what makes people turn up, what scares people off, and how you actually help people. And I guess I titled today's workshop, Teach a Man to Fish, and you feed him for life. Give him a fish, you feed him for a day. Because one of the things that we've realized is benefits don't lead long-term to people getting onto something more productive. So whereas if you can teach someone to make their own money doing something they actually enjoy, then you can help them make progress. So for the last 7 or so years, we've been traveling around the world asking, what stops you from starting a business? What stops you from getting going? What stops you from building a business? What's stopping you from making your own money? And yeah, feel free to type in and tell me what you think, Romy and Lindsay. But the main things that stop people getting going are cash, finance, and that's based on the belief that it takes money to make money. So lots of people think they need to borrow lots of money before they get going. Yeah, and Lindsay says, no idea where to start. You're absolutely right. That's the third one is like, what do I actually do? So people think they need money to get going. And the traditional providers out there that provide support like this, they tend to get you to write a business plan and to go and borrow money. And that definitely leads to the belief that you need cash to get going. The second one that always comes up is confidence. I don't believe I can do it. Is it even possible? What if it goes wrong? All of these different things. The opposite of confidence is the fear of failure. And it's a lack of confidence that stops people getting going. So you've got cash, confidence, and the third one, Lindsay said, which was, what do I actually do? So how do I start? And I think that the what do I actually do is a really interesting one, because it's very exciting being your own boss because you get to do anything you want to. Equally, it's very scary being your own boss because you get to do anything you want to. So we've got this sort of mix of cash, confidence, and planning that also interacts with what if it affects my benefits? And there's been changing over to universal credit, UC, over the last year or so. And UC in some ways makes it easier to start your own business because it's not a benefits cliff that people drop off. It's if you earn £1, you lose £1 in benefits, and it should make it easier once people are on UC to be able to do that. If we can help them to realize they can do it for free, feel confident, and know what to do, we can overcome about 75% of the barriers stopping people making their own money. There's always other stuff that comes up, like specific knowledge about if they're starting a food business or a photography business, they need to know specific things. How do I make a sale? My personal situation, and can I have someone to do it with? But the main three are cash, confidence, and can I have someone to do it with? If you go to a traditional enterprise support person, what's the first thing they tell you to do? First thing they tell you to do is sit down and do a business plan. How many of your residents get excited when you try and get them to sit down and do a business plan? Normally, sends them running the other way. And actually, the traditional model of startup, which is write a business plan, consider your legal structures. You're going to be a limited company, a sole trader, a CIC, all that stuff. Then you borrow money. You apply for funding. And funding is a code word for debt. And I actually have a big bee in my bonnet about this one, which we'll come to later. You invest the money in a premises, you buy advertising or stock, and then maybe you make money in year 2. How many of your residents can wait 2 years to make money? the traditional way of starting a business stops most people from getting going. It almost stopped me from getting going. And actually, that's one of the reasons I started this, was I went to Business Link about 10 or 12 years ago for support starting my own business, which was something different to this. And they gave me this exact structure. And they did more to scare me off than they did to actually help me. So there's got to be a different way of doing it. And if you look at the actual results, there was this fascinating study they did of 3 cohorts of business people, and they gave each cohort a different type of training. So cohort 1 was the control cohort. They didn't get any training. Cohort 2 was given traditional finance training, so how to manage your money, your balance sheet, your cash flow, all that stuff. And cohort 3 was given positive attitude training, confidence training, and sales training. Lindsay says, who ran the research? Let me just look it up for you. It was in Togo in West Africa. I've got the link here, Lindsay. I'll send it across to you. And it's from The Economist.
Thanks.
The positive psychology, fascinatingly, the group that did the traditional finance training didn't make that much progress. Like, things improved slightly, they saved a little bit of money, but they didn't grow that much. The positive psychology in the sales team, sales rose by 17% and their profit rose by 30%. So they made the most progress. And it's really interesting when you look at the studies, confidence and sales help people far more than business planning and finance. And it's fascinating when you see the actual studies that show this. And I guess the biggest thing I'm against is starting in debt. At the moment, the government have the startup loan scheme, which are very focused on underserved communities and lending them money. And it is a loan. You have to pay it back with a certain interest rate. And it's based off the belief that it takes money to make money. And the government seriously believe this. So they've been lending these startup loans. Hacked had a go at it with the SUMI, Startup Micro Enterprise Loan Scheme. And what we've discovered with loans is you've kind of got several outcomes. Outcome A is the person gets the loan. Currently speaking, from the startup loans company, 30% of the people who get the loan are defaulting. So they're not even paying it back. And that doesn't include the people who are paying back the loan, but they went to get a job to pay it back because their business didn't work. So you've got a massive attrition rate. And what that doesn't take account of is the people who didn't even get given the loan. So there's some quite stringent criteria, as there should be. One of the loan schemes in Manchester, they had 133 applicants, but they didn't actually lend the money to anyone. And you might think, well, that's a good thing. And it is, because we didn't put them in debt. It's just the negative consequence. If you, as an individual, go for a startup loan and then you don't get it, you're being told your business won't work. And I think it actually kills more people's dreams than it does help get going. So I'm working hard to remove startup loans from the scheme, because if you're helping people who already are not financially the best off, this is not the way to help them. So how do you actually help them? Well, we run workshops on how to build businesses for free. We've been doing this for about 7 years. The one you can see on the screen is in Croydon. You'll actually notice Beaverbrooks, the shop in the background, just above the title. And the reason we do that is we do it in shopping malls. So we're actually right in a shopping mall right now in Chippenham, running an event. I think I might be able to show you. So if I stop sharing my screen for a second, we are actually right in the middle of a shopping centre. We've got 40 people who are out here in the middle of the shopping centre, and they're all working on their businesses and launching. The reason we run it in shopping centres is because people can come up with the idea at the back of the room and then literally just walk to the front of the store to start test trading. And one of the key moments on an entrepreneur's journey is that first sale. And when someone stood there with £10 in their hands or £20 in their hands and they've actually made a sale, they've actually made money, it is phenomenal. The confidence boost, the self-efficacy, the belief in possibility that gives someone. So by doing it in a shopping mall, you're giving people the chance to make their first sale. So instead of business plans, instead of startup loans, we've run these giant workshops. That's Croydon. We had 183 people over the 2 weeks. It's actually the biggest one we've ever done. People can just start trading instantly to work out whether they like it. One of the downfalls of debt, and this has happened to a lot of people, is that they start the business, never having run one before, borrow a lot of money, and then work out it's not for them, but they're still saddled with the debt. Our way of doing it live, starting people training, actually allows them to test with no risk. And we can have a challenge later, Lindsay and Romy, if there's any businesses you want to know how to start for free, tell me. I love a good challenge. There's hardly any businesses out there that you can't start for free and get going for free. I think the focus we have is on confidence, energy, and motivation, and showing that it's possible by helping people get their first trade. So we start with sales, which gets people going very, very quickly. And this is one of my favorite slides in the deck. What people want versus what they need. And the sports industry online sells people six-packs. And what people want is a magic pill, is a magic formula to look like this guy on the screen. And just so you all know, that's not me, that's not a picture of me. But they think they want a magic formula to be able to do this. What they actually need is a great diet, and they need a fitness plan, but that's not what they want. And what the residents want is cash, but that's not what they actually need. They need help learning how to run a business, to make their first sale, to get going. And giving them money is not the answer to helping them. It doesn't do it. So I have an offer to anyone out there who's listening. If you'd like to come along to an event, we have events all over the country this year, from Cardiff to Leek to, I think we've got a couple on in Manchester, to Brent Cross in London, and all around. I'd love you to be able to see it. Come along, meet the actual participants and see an event and taste it. We do also have one going on in New Zealand right now, if you want to drop in on that one. Or there'll be one in Colorado in October this year. So feel free to drop into an event. That's the main stuff I wanted to do on how to start a business for free. There was one other thing that I wanted to share with you, which is how do you actually get your residents to show up to an event? And we've been tracking the data for around about a year and a half now of how people found our events and whether they actually show up. And I just wanted to share this with you. It looks a bit complex. That's because it's an actual spreadsheet. But I'll show you. This is all of the events that we have run in 2018 so far. And you'll see at the top here, there is Facebook. And Facebook got us 145 sign-ups to our event, but only 60 people showed up. And I think that's a really interesting one for when you're thinking about promoting your own events in housing associations, is the conversion rate from people saying they will come to people actually showing up. And then if you look below, referral got 193 sign-ups, but it actually got 115 people that actually show up to the event. And that's a 60% conversion rate. It's way better than Facebook, way better. And the ones below, Eventbrite and social media, have lower. The red ones are below average show-ups. Surprisingly enough, one of the partners that's done the best with us this year The job centre got 67 sign-ups and they got 44 people to show up. So if you can work through the job centre, people are far more likely to actually show up to your events. And I think by tracking this data, you can actually look to see who's going to show up, where they come from, what they do, and we compare it across events. So you can actually then compare that. This is our Didcot event with Facebook, referrals, and the different ways people have found us. So if you ever want to know what works in different areas of the country for getting people to show up to events, let me know. I'd love to help. So that's that. The final bit I wanted to just have a very brief look at is, does what I'm saying actually work? And I've known Lindsay for some time now, and I could never directly answer this question until recently. We've just completed an 18-month study of the work we did in Reading. We did 3 workshops. This is the impact report. There's the introduction and that stuff. So we had 335 people show up to the event. So 335 people show up to the event. 36% of them started a business, which meant we started 122 businesses at the event. We went back 18 months later to track it, and 89% of those people were still trading, which, when you compare that to a startup loan scheme failure rate, is phenomenal. We'll break down that contribution to the economy a little bit later. From that event, I need to remove the annotations. That looks a bit naff, doesn't it? Clear. That's Milan, one of the people who built a business. He was an ex-Slovakian special forces guy that started a martial arts training business. That was the number of people who turned up, the different age ranges and genders that we supported. One of my favorite questions is, how much impact did PopUp Business School have on your life out of 10? And this, you've got to remember, this is 18 months later, so they've not seen us for 18 months. The average response was 8 out of 10, with 27% of people saying 10 out of 10, you changed my world. So we had an incredible impact over those 18 months. That's the trading success rates, 89% still going after 18 months. It's a guy called Aaron who started a museum of news after the event, one of the most strange businesses we've started. The DWP did a little study 6 months after the event, and they found 1 in 3 of their ESA claimants were off benefits afterwards. He called it the museum, Lindsay. So it was a museum of news, the museum. So he persuaded, a museum of news. So he persuaded all the newspapers to give him their old copies that are just left rotting in different warehouses. And he took all the old copies, he started digitizing them, he's selling the pictures to the football clubs to make money, and he's launching his own museum of news.
Sorry, thank you. I couldn't quite hear it, and I thought I'd pop in and check. You were saying something about DWP claimants, tracking that, which sounded
Yeah, the DWP tracked the claimants over 6 months, and 1 in 3 were off benefits after 6 months. That was the ESA claimants, not just JSA. And you can see, I think this is one of the bits I'm most proud of. Unemployment went down. 48% of the group were unemployed beforehand, and that went down to 27%, with self-employment going up and employment going up across the group. So we've been able to actually prove what happens. And if you take that, there's Amy, she started a dog walking business. But if you take those figures, with 70 people coming out of unemployment, we worked out the average benefit saving to the Department of Work and Pensions, which saves them 1.2 million a year. And the increased economic activity, which is people starting businesses and going back into work, was 1.6 million a year. We contributed 2.8 million to the Reading economy every year, and that was based off a project that cost £66,000. So the return on investment for doing these kind of projects is phenomenal. And there's lots of other examples. There's lots of other stories. I guess, yeah, let's kind of end my bit there because I feel like I've been talking for hours. I'd love to know what you and Romy would like to know. And what would you like to know?
Romy, feel free to put some questions into the chat box or in the Q&A, and we'll pick them up. I don't think I can invite you to join the meeting as such, Romy, but anyway, please do. I was wondering, thanks for that. First of all, could you send us a link to that research so that we can save that with the webinar recording, and that would be really useful to look at. Did you, who conducted that research? Did you do it in-house, or did you do it with anyone external, or how did you pull that together?
We were part of the Deloitte Pioneers scheme.
Right.
We give some free consulting to social enterprises that are making a difference in the world. They kind of coached us through it.
Yeah.
And then we built it ourselves. It's actually, for a small business of 9 people, that was a significant investment over 6 months.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, it's tracking people after 18 months is no mean feat.
They changed phone numbers.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's interesting. I was wondering about that. And the information about ESA and JSA claimants and working with Job Centre Plus, obviously it sounds like you've got some good working relationships in particular areas or districts to get those referrals, and the referral information is really interesting, actually. The conversion from social media versus basically people-based information is really quite stark, isn't it? And I don't suppose that is surprising when you think about it, but it is very useful to see it, and the sort of the tapering down effect of social media, kind of having a very quick bit of easy interest and then dissipating really fast. So that was really interesting to see, and I think Romy is obviously part of Optivo and that wider project which is about to launch in England and France, which is going to be a lot about interest generation and referral driving. And I think that sort of information, if you could share it, at least with Romy, would be, and in summary, would be really interesting for them to look at and consider, because they're going to need a referral strategy. So anyway, I won't put words into Romy's mouth, but that sort of stuff, moving thing. And my question, I'll come to Romy's question here, but, oh, thanks, sir, was beyond individual JCPs working with you and having an interest, do you have any interest or ambition, or are you already kind of talking to the DWP nationally about supporting more of their service users at Job Centre Plus into your type of courses, or is that not really a space that you're in?
I have mixed feelings about the DWP. They've been an incredible partner in Reading. They give us referrals. The DPS system has killed us dead. Can't access any money. Like, it's absolutely killed us dead. And even the partners in Reading who want to spend money with us and do programs are struggling to get money out of their own thing.
Really?
Yeah, it's absolutely killed us, that piece. We have started to go up the chain. We've got some national contacts that are giving us referrals, but I'm unsure of how to progress with the Department of Work and Pensions. It is something I'd like to do because we genuinely help their customers. But the size we are, we're just 9 people. Getting the DPS to work with us has been virtually impossible.
Yeah. Slightly dismaying to hear that the dynamic purchasing system has failed another business. You're not alone. Was that a technical problem, or?
No, we're on the system. We've all signed up. Everything's good. Just there's no way to actually get them to buy it.
Really?
So we're on the system. We've had our thing approved.
Yeah.
But there's no actual way to get them to buy it.
Interesting. Okay. If there's any sort of offline from here, but if there's any details you could share about that, we could certainly share that as a live example of a block if you're happy for us to do that with our colleagues at URSA and at the DWP, who are really keen to try and get nimble, articulate organisations to help more of their customers, but who are aware that DPS is a block. And they are trying to unblock that and trying to work district to district to truly understand how that commissioning process can work. So if you are able to just send some basic, where you got as far, I suppose, as far as you got to with JCP in Reading, for example, and where the trail went dead, we could just explore with our colleagues at URSA and with the DWP what they might do to unlock that, or whether it is simply a problem that they, or a block that they cannot overcome. It would just be good to know which of those two it is.
Yeah.
Would that be all right?
I would love that. I'll share with you my DPS number,
Yeah,
registered, and all the details, and
all of that. Because live examples of that blockage and problem are really useful. And they have said they want to try and help. So when we can give that detail, they can at least start to look behind the system, go and speak to their districts and understand what's going on.
Yes.
So that would be great. Thank you. I see Romy put a little comment in about not having to spend a single penny on a business, and you replied to that. I don't think, thanks for sharing the impact report. I don't think I had any other particular questions. Is the Deloitte Pioneers thing an ongoing program, by the way?
It's changed slightly this year. They still do work with social enterprises, and it was a fascinating year. It had its highs and lows. They definitely helped us with impact measurement. Yeah, it's interesting when you get into these programs and experience it. Yeah.
Yeah, I might just cross-refer to them because we're doing our own impact research at the moment with the University of Salford, which will have a totally different way of looking at this, I imagine, to Deloitte Pioneers. But it might be interesting to refer them into Deloitte Pioneers. So if I just Google that, presumably I'll find it.
Or I can send you the links afterwards, or I can send you the people I used to work with. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'll just speculatively link them up with our lead researchers at Salford and see how if they can work across those evaluation landscapes, which I'm sure are different. But yeah, good.
Cool. Romy just asked, like, when you start a business for free, do you mean that I won't have to invest a single penny for any business? I just wanted to say, Romy, I've not found a single business that you can't start for free. And I don't care whether it's a restaurant, a food business, a photography business, there's always a way to do it by generating sales first, by finding the money elsewhere. There's always a way to start a business for free. And, well, I challenge your members, send me any business and we'll work out how to do it for free. There's always a way.
Well, a restaurant's an interesting one.
Yeah, would you like an example?
Quick example, yeah, before I let you go.
Quick example, a challenge accepted, says Romy. Bring it on, I love it, excellent. There was a guy who wanted to start a restaurant. He didn't have the cash, didn't want to go into debt. What he actually did was found a cafe that was open 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. The owners of the cafe, they made enough money during the day, they were exhausted by the evening. He made friends and he did a pop-up version of the restaurant in the evenings and pre-sold the tickets. So he borrowed the space, he borrowed the cutlery, the tables, he even borrowed the food hygiene certificate, which is the hardest thing to get, and launched by using someone else's space and shared the profits. He actually operated there for 2 years before he generated enough money to be able to afford his own space. But there is always a way to start without spending any money.
Amazing.
Let's launch one together. I've always wanted to launch a Mexican restaurant.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, Romy, thanks for coming on. Do share it with your Optivo colleagues. I hope they're all well, by the way. We know Genesis were joined up today as well, and about 3-4 other HAs, so I'll make sure that they get the recording first, and then we'll share it with all our other members anyway. We typically do that by Monday morning, so that will be in other Alan's, IT Tech Alan's capable hands to do. Thank you very much. Really useful. Obviously, it's recorded, so we've sort of got your slides. Thanks for sending the link to the research. And thanks, Romy, for coming along.
Thanks, Romy. Say hi to the Toms. Thanks, Lindsay.
Cheers. Have a good day. Thanks, Alan. Bye.
Bye. Bye.